Hey everybody, welcome to Not a Cigar Show. Okay, maybe a little bit. I'm Fred Rewey with Cigar Press Magazine. Welcome to episode 313. It's not episode 313. I totally make up the numbers. You all know that by now. I make up the numbers on every episode, but the number does have something to do with the guest. And today's guest I'm excited about. This is probably one of the most recognizable, relentlessly hustling people that I know in the cigar world. He co-founded a brand that proved one very important thing, and it's an age-old argument: size does matter. He helped make 70 ring gauges mainstream, isn't afraid to name a cigar schizo, and has probably spent more time in cigar lounges than most of us have in our homes. Often featured on Cigar Press Magazine, and feared by any standard size mold out there, cigar mold. Please welcome Tom Lazuka. Tom, man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, Fred. I like the entrance into the 313.
See, yeah, you would get that one. I don't know if all the listeners will get it, but yeah, I make up the numbers every week. I'm like, most of the guests don't know the number, what it is, and I'm like, yeah, Tom's going to know this one right out of the gate. So that's fair. So hey, as I start every show, give me a number between 1 and 8, so I know what I'm smoking here.
Let's go with 6.
1, 4, 5, 6. Oh, all right. So we are smoking. They're all your cigars.
Very nice.
Thankfully, we avoided number 4, which was the banana cigar. I still haven't smoked. I still have not smoked these.
Yeah,
The banana. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm just holding up the cigars. And then I had a bunch of these other ones in here too. But fortunately, the one you ended up picking is the Oive that you did for the cigar. My friends over at Cigar Dojo, which is a fabulous cigar. And it's funny. We've had this conversation before. We'll get into it later. We'll talk about Honduran tobacco and stuff a little bit later. Let me kind of start at the beginning, because you live where right now and have lived?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in the Detroit area, which the reference to 313 is the area code in Detroit. The original area
You
code.
just gave it away. Not as
Well, the listeners know.
I was going to give away a car or something, but now it's off. It's off. Now I'm not going to.
All right, well, sell it then. Okay.
So you're in the Detroit area, and you've been there how long?
My entire life. So
Your entire life.
54 years old. I've grew up in the Detroit area my whole life. Born in Oakwood Hospital, which is now something else. It's still a hospital, but it's called something else.
Right.
And went to high school in Allen Park, and just a suburb just a little south of Detroit. Went to Wayne State University in downtown Detroit, and got married, had my kids here in the Detroit area, and moved. Now I'm in the northern suburbs of Detroit, but so it's good.
Yeah, kids, if you're watching the video and you keyed on that he's 54 years old, these cameras aren't very good. I mean, he looks much better in person. I can promise you that. It's the miles. It's not the age. So, do you like winters? You can leave, right? I'm from Wisconsin originally. You can move. I'm just saying.
Fred, like as you said in the entry, I travel a lot. I'm in a lot of cigar lounges.
Well,
so
that's fair. Yeah.
I do make it a point to get the hell out of here when it's icy and freezing, and end up in Florida or Arizona or somewhere nice and warm in the winter months. So
You do travel more than a lot of people I know. I mean, when I said the intro and stuff, it's no bullshit. You're one of the hardest people. Like, even when I think you have the ability to kick back a little bit, you are always hustling like it's your first 3 years. You are still maintaining that pace.
Yeah, it is. We're a mid-sized to small company, right? And at the end, we're still looking to grow and have room to grow. So, I like the road. Like for me personally, I enjoy our customers and the end consumers. I enjoy working with our reps. We have 12 reps around the country that, most of my time is just my dual role is not only co-founder of the brands, but also I run all the sales for the company in the U.S. and in Canada. And so, I have, again, 12 salespeople. I try and visit at least twice a year, and work with them, do events when I'm in town. We plan the schedule and go out and do events and promote the brands. And then I handle the bigger, internet companies and catalog guys and that stuff too. So then I make my visits to them. So it always seems like, but at the end of the year, there's, 52 weeks in a year, and I'm
Right, right,
and I work 45 weekends a year, between multi-vendor events and
right.
and everything. So
So Detroit, so you're in Detroit like 3 days a year. I get it. Okay, it all makes
yeah,
sense now.
yes, I sleep more at the Hilton hotels than I do in my own bed. My
All
my
right,
old
so let's go ahead.
my old joke is I have a memory foam bed that doesn't remember me. You know?
So let me go back. Let me take everybody that maybe doesn't know kind of a little bit of your backstory before becoming the superhero that you are today. When you were young, you were in restaurants, right?
Yeah, when I got out of college, I joined a group called Jets Pizzas, and
Hmm.
they're probably in 39 or 40 states now. And it was a smaller organization back then. It was over 30 years ago. There's 20, I mean, there's probably 20, 25 stores when it started. Now they're well over, I think, close to 1,000. But yeah, so I had an aunt that was an accountant and owned part of one, and they wanted to do a area development agreement, and so it said, "Why don't you come run these things?" And I said, "I really, really didn't go to college to run a pizza place, like I
Right.
wasn't sure that's something I wanted to do." And they're like, "Listen, we don't even know if you can run one. Why don't you just come try it out?" You know what I mean? It's true. It's a lot of work, right? So they said,
You
"What?"
got sold. That's like the great takeaway. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you're not right for this. Maybe you're not good enough for this. Well, I want this pizza place now.
Yeah, yeah, basically, right? Like, all right, I'll give it a go, and it went well. And we ended up with this area development agreement where we got to 4 stores, but um, I was never home, 80 to 120 hours a week, and
Right.
developing new stores and training staff and going between them, and so eventually my ex-wife now, but she's like, "Listen, we can't start a family this way. You're never home." Like, and so
Right.
I sold out and somehow stumbled my way into the cigar business in 2001, and we're 24 years later, and here I am, I guess.
All right. So how did that happen? I get the reason for getting rid of the pizza stuff.
Yeah.
I get rid of. How did you end up in cigars? Like, I mean, that's not like it's not like you were in a lounge, working in a lounge, I mean, nobody was smoking cigars in the pizza place.
Yeah. No, I was very fortunate. Like, my best friend growing up, his name's Mark Hayes, and he's been with Fuente Newman for 25 or 26 years.
Hmm.
And he worked for a few years with Michael Perales from Impact Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Michael's a local Detroit guy also. And so when Mark worked for him, I got introduced to Michael. And that was really my introduction into cigars.
Hmm.
Um, and geez, I can't even remember this is when I was still in the pizza places. And so I became good friends with Michael over the years. And one day when I got out of the pizza, he just said, "Hey, listen, you should get in this business. You really should." He called me. He said, "Hey, Tom, call these people if you're looking for a job." And it was with Calibri and
Right.
ST DuPont at that time. And so I went to work at Calibri for 2 years and did well there. And obviously, I didn't do the jewelry side at Calibri. I focused
Hmm.
on the tobacconist and some jewelry shops. Like I still had to sell clocks and pocket watches, but yeah. So but I took the job with them and spent 2 years there, and then met Salim Hanano, who was obviously with Camacho back in those days. And
Hmm.
Salim's like, "Hey, we're looking to hire people. You want to come work?" And I remember it was like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minnesota. I'm like, "No, I'm not interested, dude, at all." Like,
Right. Right.
no, no. And but about 6 months later, they did some research. They called back and said, "Hey, what do you think just about like Michigan, Ohio, Western PA, and Kentucky?" And I said, I'm interested."
Doable. Doable.
So I flew down, and that was the first time I met Christian and Sal Fontana, and
Hmm.
they offered me the job, and I've been here ever since with the Eiroa family.
Right.
Even
So
though I
let's
think
talk about that. Go
Christian
ahead.
wanted to fire me after the first 3 months. He
Did
was
he?
like, "Oh yeah, he likes to fire everybody." Not, I'm joking about that, but he did. He was like, "Oh, you said." I said, "Dude, I got to meet the customers. I got to go out and
Right.
work." And I'm not a morning person per se, right? So he's like, I don't
Right.
trust people who don't get up early in the morning." But now over the years, he said, "I trust two people that don't get up early in the morning: Warren Buffett and you." So
So how long were you there before that got sold?
so that was 2000, late 2022 when I started with Camacho, and they sold in 2008, late 2008, October of 2008. So it was 6 years, and then we operated separately for 2 years, and then the Davidoff, we combined the brands in 2010.
Hmm.
Shrunk territories. I worked with Davidoff, and I basically covered Michigan, Northern Ohio, like Cleveland, and over
Hmm.
to Youngstown, and then in Pittsburgh with them.
So, so Christian's out of there. Did you stay behind for a while? Were you still there for a while when Christian had left? Because
Yeah,
he had a non-compete to wait out.
yeah.
So he's gone. It's sold. You stayed behind for a while, still working there.
And he stayed on for quite a bit of the
Hmm.
time, right? I mean,
Right.
he stayed on and worked with us, and they originally were going to move their office to Miami. I ended up going to Pinellas Park, and I think that was Christian's like, I'm not leaving Miami.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
moving. So that was kind of the end there, and so yeah. So when Christian left and the non-compete ended, we had spoken about starting a brand.
Right.
The family still owned the farms in Honduras, and so when we first started in 2012, Davidoff had the first right of refusal to make the products. So the original CLE brands were made in the old Camacho factory that was owned by
Oh,
Davidoff in
interesting.
Honduras.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Asylum I had took to Nicaragua, and we made all the Asylum brands in Nicaragua, and it was kind of like a think tank in the beginning, right? It's been
Right.
kind of like an ever evolving company in a sense, because when we started, we had ourselves, the CLE brand Asylum. We brought in Wynwood Hills and Robert Caldwell. And then we brought in Edgar Hoyle with the Ossock brand, and we brought in
And then you had
Grace
Grace's brand and the
Santalago
Puro Soul guy.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Robert
Yeah.
Wright, and
Yeah.
Robert's still
Rob.
with
Right.
us. Robert works with us in New York, and he's our sales manager. He kind of helps me with the day-to-day operations of the salespeople. So, but so it was this kind of think tank, and it was people who maybe didn't have the funds to get into it fully and
Right. Right.
support it and grow it. And at the end we found out some people it just didn't work that well that way, right?
Right.
People
Right.
had different ideas and different things they wanted to do, but at the time when Asylum started, it took off. So it was basically funding the entire company, and there were just
Right.
certain things that uh, you know, and listen, we were at the beginning, we knew we were going to lose money off the rip. You know what I mean? We hired
Sure.
a sales team right away, and so we knew we had to build it very quickly, and it was growing very quickly. And I think some of the other people, not necessarily Edgar or Grace, and but like with Robert, he wanted to grow faster and wanted more investment. And it's like, listen, you got to grow your brand to X,
Right.
and
Right.
then we can put that money into it. But I can't pull money out of my brands to build your brand per se. In a
Yeah,
sense.
you're limited resources, and for the most part, other than Asylum, everybody's at the same level. It's like, who do you know which one to give it to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, and look, it was a great experience, and I got to work with some great people in that. But eventually, me and Christian just said, "All right, it's just me and you." And each company was owned separately, right? So it was like
Right.
the overhead company, and then there was me and Christian with CLE or with Asylum, and then Edgar and Christian, and Robert and Christian. So everything was kind of separate, and so we eventually just merged it all together. So me and Christian own the company, so I'm part owner of the CLE and the Eiroa brand. So those are
Hmm.
important to us too, especially with the heritage and the tobacco from Honduras. Is very important to me, and so yeah, that's kind of how we got here today. Just kind of battling through.
Right. Right. What was your vision for Asylum? And we'll talk about the big ring gauge stuff in a
Yeah,
second, but what was your vision? I mean, so you're coming off of, Calibre, Camacho, CLE is starting, you're going on board and you go, okay, but I'm also going to do my own brand, which is a bold move in itself, going, okay, I want to have my own brand. What was your vision or idea between what was going to make you different than what Christian was doing, other than the fact you were going to a different country, you weren't beholden. I mean, this is another experiment because you go, well, if I start Asylum, we're not beholden to having to do the cigars out of the other factory. We can be streamlined, see which
yeah.
one wins.
Yeah, it's funny because you come into this, right, and I enjoy selling cigars. I still do to this day. I love the sale, and to go out and when we were starting this, and the ideas and the thought process was to create more of an everyday brand, because we saw rising cost, and even back
Right.
then in 2012, especially with the shift in Honduras in 2008 with the political environment there. A lot of people fled Honduras and went into Nicaragua, and were making cigars in Nicaragua after Zelaya became president. And once he got ousted, or the coup, the military flew him out, Honduras became like the wild, wild west again, right?
Right.
The drug money was flowing through, and a lot of corruption and murders, and the gang violence was really bad, and wages were going up. And still today, Honduras is much more expensive than these other countries to manufacture. And, it's doubled, triple the rates of Nicaragua now. And
Wow.
um,
Okay.
so, but the thought process was, listen, honestly, I didn't come into the cigar world thinking I'd ever own a brand, so I was very fortunate to have great mentors like Christian and his father, Don Julio, and Sal Fontana, to go out and experience and get to go to the factories right away. It was great with Christian because he'd be like, hey, I'm going down next week. Do you want to come for a few days? And so I really got to see how it worked, as
Right.
a new person in the business, and get involved in the manufacturing side and the blending side. And, like I said, I'll never ever say I'm a master blender. You know what I mean? Like, it just
Right. Yeah.
I think it takes away from too many people that know much more than me,
That's exactly what I always say. I was on one show that they said, and I didn't even know their show was the Master Blender series. They had me, and I'm like, well, the first thing you need to do is change the name, because this is disrespectful to real Master Blenders out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's people who've been in this for 40 and 50 years that
Yeah.
can look at tobacco, smell tobacco, know where it comes from. And I can taste it, obviously you
Sure.
learn a lot over the years, and there's certain things you do know, but to say that to me is always just kind of disrespectful to the people who really have been in this business a long time and understand tobacco, the growing process. I mean, when it comes to everything, you have to understand how to grow the tobacco, and if it's thicker tobacco, if just how the tobacco works. You know what I mean?
Right.
And how to blend them together to make the combustion right, and all those things.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's more, I just go, listen, this is what I'm looking to make, and then
Yeah.
we have our people down in Honduras, and I go down, and they got 25 different blends, and then I kind of pick it apart from there. You know what I mean? So I might say, it's not strong enough. I want more Lajero or Corojo Lajero in it, in the filler. And so I'll kind of play with it that way. And, I've done a lot, like the blending on all the flavors, like the one banana. I wish I would have picked that one for you, Fred. I was so hoping you smoked that cigar.
It's right here. It was number 4. It was number 4. You had your chance.
Yeah, that's why you made sure you had 8. You're like, oh shit, 4. That's a 25% chance.
I'll tell you what. I'll do it on this show right now, but I got to think of what the other side would be. Green Bay is playing Detroit Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
If we lose, I will light up the banana cigar and smoke it after the game.
All right. So what do I got to do?
I don't know. I got to think. I got to come up with something. I got to come up with something equally bad, and I got to post it. So I got to come up with something like, I know what I'll do. I will send you. I've got some. I still have Green Bay Packers cigars, the cigars I made to the Green Bay Packers. I will send you a Green Bay Packers cigar, and you have to smoke that one and post it.
Fair enough, my friend. Fair enough. Deal.
Done. God, I hope I don't have to smoke the banana cigar.
It's actually pleasant. It's actually pleasant.
The way you're talking, I hope you had to smoke the banana cigar. Makes me feel like it is. No, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So let's go back. So you start up Asylum.
Yep.
So which came first, or are they related? When you basically told Christian, go, hey, I want to make a 70 ring gauge cigar. Did he just say you were crazy? And how does this go down?
Yeah. So, through the years, I had been traveling a lot and going to different stores and things like that. And I had just noticed, I wasn't the first one to make a 70, I think Nick Perdomo made the Immenso, which I think was a 66 by 6 years before. And maybe it was just before its time at that point. but you had Grand Habanos and JFR was 70s in the ring gauge. And as I traveled, I would see empty boxes all the time, empty, empty, empty. And I'd ask the retailers, and they'd be like, they sell, we just never get them. They don't supply it. So I remember when we went to Honduras and to Nicaragua to start the blending process, I really said, hey, listen, Christian, I ordered bands and stuff. I'm going to make, 70 ring gauge cigars. And he's like, that is the worst idea I've ever heard. He's like, that's a terrible idea. He goes, but I'm going to do it. So I think the original ones, we made like 5,000 cigars, right? The original, but he's like, well, I'm going to do 5,000. I just remember we went, we started, the first day we could sell was July 2nd of 2012. It was the first day we could actually go out and hit the road and sell cigars and ship, right? So we made like 5,000 of them. And that first month, it was, right before the PCA in Orlando, or RTDA at that time.
Right. Wait, so how did you didn't have like 70 and 80 ring gauge, 70 molds sitting around?
No. So, obviously we went to Nicaragua to make the Asylums.
Right.
And so, the factory we used in the beginning was Naxa.
Oh, okay. So they had them. Yeah.
Yep. And so, they made them. I remember going down and, obviously Naxa at that point was really known for more price conscious cigars. And so the way that they rolled, and bunched the tobacco was a little different. So, their rollers were rolling 500 to 550 cigars a day, and the way they were bunching. And so they were always like a smiley face on the end of the cigar. You know what I mean?
Right.
You had too much tobacco on one side. So they always kind of burned crooked. So I remember the first trip I'm going through, I'm like, no, I'm not taking this, not taking this. Right. And so when we sat with them, we said, listen, we'll pay more to have you roll it the way we need it rolled. You know what I mean? So if the roller makes X for 550, we'll pay them the same price if they make 250. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think we really started to change the culture at that factory more into.
Did that work? Did that work?
Absolutely. I mean, they did a fantastic job. The cigars were great, construction, and they really did a good job making the cigars for us. And at that point, up until about COVID, and then they couldn't supply us. They didn't have the rollers, and then we moved everything back. We moved everything back to Honduras. So now we make 100% of our cigars in-house at our factory in Honduras. But yeah, so it was just going around seeing it, and Christian's like, this is a terrible idea. And then we got to Orlando, and that first month was rough, right? Because people weren't really buying. They're prepping for the show. And, I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, I just left a job with a 401k match and a company vehicle, good health insurance, and I'm like, oh, shit, maybe I screwed up here, right?
And I have 5,000 cigars of big ring gauge that I've been told was a stupid idea.
Yeah. And the original launch, we had the Asylum 13 Nicaragua, we had the Asylum Premium, and we had the Schizo, or bundle, and which is a Cuban sandwich mixed filler. And we got to a trade show in Orlando, and it just exploded. It was crazy. I mean, people were just in the booth, and the catalogs were ordering like 1,000 bundles of every Schizo, like the 770s. And so it just took off. I mean, production, our goal really was, when me and Christian started, was just to be me and him, 600,000 cigars a year, and just keep it simple, just grow the brand. And we never wanted it to be big. It was always just kind of like, oh, let's just do this. And, in the first 6 months, we did like 875,000 cigars, 785, just under 800,000 cigars in the first 6 months. And so Christian's like, dude, you got start hiring a sales team, go out and find people. And, so we started building with Lucas Nook up in Detroit, and he was our first rep from day one. We hired him right off the bat. But, then we started filling in all the other territories, and have, consistently grown our brand. COVID kind of slowed us down again because supply, and that's why I had to pull out an Naxa. They just couldn't give us the cigars that we needed. And then, I had a couple million cigars on back order with them, and they're like, oh, by the way, you got a price increase, and we're applying it to the back orders. And, and we're like, yeah, no, we're out. So we moved all the production into Honduras and went that route.
So let's talk about the challenge, because I've always been impressed with, and maybe this comes with, where you source tobacco and everything, but the fact that you could, look, we all know, at least us on the shows or the people guests that are on the show and people in the industry, we know how much tobacco costs. We know how much it keeps going up in price. You've always maintained a pretty solid price point for what is a lot of tobacco. You talk 6x60s, 7x70s. What's your biggest challenge? Either is it tobacco? Is it, what's your biggest challenge in doing that? Because I've always been impressed how you can keep the prices what you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge has always been more of a cash flow issue. They're kind of become the lost leaders, and
Right.
eventually we developed the Eiroa brand, which is higher price points, so
Mhm.
our margins are better on that. But and Asylum has went up quite a bit over the years now. You know what I mean? Just
Sure.
between factory
It has
costs,
to.
shipping costs, labor rates, everything has caused the price to go up. But the 770 was always the lost leader. We actually probably lost money on that cigar in the beginning,
Mhm, mhm.
if we discounted it at all, right? So
Right, right.
there wasn't a ton of margin in it, but it kept growing and building, and it just worked, right? Like, for whatever reason, we never marketed to any group, we never marketed to any specific way, but people related with the brand. And again, I think being on the road, I watch guys like Rocky Patel be on the road day after day after day and month after month, and I seen how that build the brands and building the relationships. So I said that's the model I have to use to build the brand.
Yeah.
When I remember Dave Garofalo from Two Guys, was always like, unbelievable, man. He's like, I would have thought a brand with the name Asylum and some big ring gauge cigars would have never made it, but
Right.
it works for whatever reason. And I think the biggest key for us, Fred, is when I went into the retailers and they said they sell, but I never have them. So, people ask, oh, did you blend your masterpiece? Did you go down there? And I said, you know what? When we walked into Nax, I
Mhm.
said, do not make me cigars with any tobacco that you can't make a million cigars with the first year. So the first thought was to supply.
Wow.
So we
Okay.
tried all these different
Which is
blends.
what you were trying to fill. That's what you recognized the market was not had a supply issue.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that was it. So we blended the best cigar, a cigar that was more to my taste with fuller body and I like a rich cigar, darker wrappers and things like that. So, uh, I think the blend came out really good. And like I said, it hit the market and it just took off and we were able to supply it. And I think that's what really separated us from as the big ring gauge trend starting at
Right.
that point. Again, because we weren't the first one,
You could supply.
yeah, I mean, again, George Rico is a great friend of mine at Grand Habanos,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
George did a good job with it. And we were just able to kind of take that big ring gauge to the next level, and then we decided let's do an 80 ring gauge and make a 70 look normal, right? And then
Right, right, right.
80 started selling. Then we did a 90 by 9. And then Arganosa came out with a 10 by 100. And
Yeah,
I remember,
we're hold on to that. We're gonna talk about that
yeah,
later.
yeah.
The wars on that. So look, if I was to make a list of 5 people in the industry, brand owners, let me put it in that arena that had the least ego, you are definitely on that list. I mean, I've known you for years now, and you're just one of the. But here's the thing: when it took off out of the gate, and everybody had said, "Don't do it," wasn't there a part of you that just had to go, "F yeah"? Like I just, I saw it, I picked it, I had a vision. I mean, just satisfying to see the skeptics kind of go, "Hey, man, you were right."
No, you know what? I never actually worry about the skeptics. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that
Right,
is the furthest waste of energy in my mind. You know what I mean?
right,
So,
right. Yeah, yeah.
for me, it was just the satisfaction came from building something from nothing. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
still is to this day, right? To take a brand that people just thought was going to be some hokiness, and yeah, sometimes it is hokey in some of the stuff we do, but we have fun with it, and that's the beauty of Asylum. I can do anything, Fred. Like, we
Right, right.
literally can pull off anything, and people are like, yeah, it's just Asylum and Lazuka. Go ahead. We get it, so.
Right, right, right,
Uh,
right.
but the satisfaction really comes from just watching the brand grow, employing the people that we've had. Many of our people have stayed a long time. and being able to provide good jobs in Honduras and in the U.S. for our people, and just seeing, it's a never-ending battle, right? There's always something that's a battle, whether it's tariffs this year or FDA 1 year for 100 years, or we're always battling something. But the satisfaction just comes from seeing a brand establish and getting to visit customers, and some of the bigger retailers in the country are like, Tom, you made it, man. Like, you don't got to worry. Your brand kills it here,
Right.
and so that's the satisfying part for me, man. That's where the reward comes. And again, to continue to try and make new cigars and different things, and go that route, always evolving.
I want to talk about that because, look, you clearly, you saw a need, you had a vision, you filled it, you absolutely got the home run. It could certainly rest on that. But now your vision, and I like the idea what you said about Asylum could do whatever you want to do. It's kind of like that, just ignore me. I'm the kid in the corner that, eats paste, but I can do whatever I want to do. And everybody laughs like, look at these things they're selling. Because then you had the giant ring gauge, and you supplied it, and you kind of owned that market that became your market. To the point that I think people credit you for creating that market, when in reality you just saw an undersupplied market. But then you go into things like a 7x70 barber pole, I think was the Ogre. Insidious was sweet tipped. Was that a sweet tip Lancero?
Yeah. Sweet tipped. Yeah.
The Honduran Puro, which was the Asylum 13 Corojo.
Yeah, we have the
Okay.
Corojo, we have the Medulla Oblongata in the 13.
So what made you decide, okay, look, I've got this. And was this a personal thing? Like, did you see another need, or did you okay, I don't want to be known for the guy that just does big ring gauge, and I think I can expand this brand?
Well, it's usually need-based, right? Like, because I look at, okay, how do we grow our brand? We know 70 ring gauge smokers is a small percentage of the actual cigar smokers. So how do we get our brands in front of non-70 ring gauge smokers, right?
Right.
We've always made the more traditional sizes. We make Robusto, we make Toro. I make Lanceros in a few of the blends and things like that. But the reality of it is, it was like, listen, every brand needs a Connecticut. You know what I mean? So we did the Asylum Connecticut, and nobody made a 70 in a Connecticut. So, it's funny because 70 is the #1 selling size in every Asylum brand.
Really interesting.
I call it the gift and the curse at the same time. Because you can start a company. It doesn't mean you're a brand, right? Like you have a business, but until there's something recognizable about your brand, like the Mercedes logo or whatever, right? Or the X on Fuente, right? Like everybody knows it, right? So with Asylum, they see the skull, they think big ring gauge. So I call it the gift and the curse, right? Because the gift is people know the brand now all over the world, but the curse is they forget that I actually make normal sized cigars sometimes. You know what I mean? So, I go to events, I'll bring a bunch of the big ring gauge and no Robustos or Toros or Lanceros. And it's like, hey, listen, over the years now, I'm just like, listen, I'm not going to come to your store and do an event unless you at least carry a couple boxes of the Toro or the Robusto.
Right.
Because I can't grow your business that way. I can go there and sell 70s, but I go to events all over the country and all over the world, and they're like, hey, dude, I've always wanted to try your cigars, but I don't smoke 60s or 70s or 80s.
Right.
So when we're able to put them into the Toros or Robustos, they're like, oh, yeah, I love it. You know what I mean? So it's trying to grow that side of our business now is, I think, where I have a real good growth opportunity. And I think, in the future, recently, the last few years, I got into the aromatic side, and we've had a lot of success with, again, your split personality, which is a banana. Well, those are all CLEs right there. Yeah. Where's the banana?
I got split personality right here.
Yeah. There's the split personality,
Those of you that are listening to the podcast don't have a clue what I'm doing, but I'm holding up pictures, holding up cigars.
Yeah. But, that's, just a thought when I'm going down and blending, I want to make something different. I want, the first ones we did were the original Deadwood, not the original Deadwood, but
the Chasing the Dragon. Yeah.
And then obviously there's some litigation going on, and everyone was very great to us. So we just pulled the
Yeah,
name
you're
off
kind of
it.
stuck. You're kind of stuck in the middle of that mess, really. I mean, basically, it's just people shooting each other. Who owned the rights to it? Who owned the names? And yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
was yeah,
and again, both sides were wonderful to us, and they said
yeah,
they didn't want us to be in the middle of it, so we just pulled the Deadwood name off and launched it as Asylum 867, with the 3 different blends, and that's had good success for us. And then I wanted to get into the I did the Cool Brew, which is the kind of mocha mint cigar that we did, and that really took off for us. And then I added the split personality this year was one of those kind of polarizing ones. Yep, there's the Cool Brew right there. And but it's funny because the banana one was just funny. When people heard banana, they're like, "Oh, disgusting," right? And but it's like you either love it or you hate it type of cigar. And but it's really more of a banana bread aroma to it.
hmm
And then when you're smoking it, it's more of the caramel and almond in the flavor of the cigar. So it's actually done extremely well for us, and it's just something different. Nobody made a banana
yeah,
cigar.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when I look at the flavors, it's funny because when I go to that process, I want to make something that I can make the colors of the box and the band say kind of what it is without saying
Right,
it, right? Without calling it
right,
banana. I want the aroma to tell you kind of what it is without telling you, and
right.
so, the only, I really try and include all the senses that I can other than the touch and the feel side. But your sight, your smell, your taste, all those things, I want the brand to kind of say it without saying it. So it's always kind of my new challenge, this year to come up with the new one, and see where we go with that. But I got a couple good ideas for a new release for next year, and so I'm just waiting on some samples there and see how they come out. But um, so it's always really looking into markets that we don't
Mhm.
have, and say, okay, because Asylum and CLE are very separate companies, or we're the same
Sure,
company,
sure.
but they're completely
Yeah, but
separate brands, right?
totally different audiences, totally different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So so we're able to have a CLE Connecticut, and it's the best-selling CLE Connecticut we have, right? Out of all the CLEs, the Connecticut crushes for us, and but we do well with the Asylum Connecticut, and so we've constantly tried to kind of come up with something new or a niche in the marketplace. And I think the real goal now for Asylum is to really, for me, next year is to launch a brand that is, I don't want to say ultra premium, but more of a premium price point, probably that
right,
$15 to $18 price point, but
right.
in traditional sizes. And so, I'm preparing that for, and it'll be the first cigar I actually put my name on. So, with Asylum, it's always just been its own kind of animal, and we've never
hmm hmm
intentionally put a face to the brand. Like I've never really wanted to be the face of the brand. It just kind
Right.
of flowed that way over the years. But I've got a real special cigar that we're gonna launch at PCA next year. That'll have my name on it, and there won't be any big ring gauges in it. So it's gonna
Wait,
be.
tell me it's the one you gave me at Rocky Mountain last year.
It is, sir. It is. Yeah.
Oh, I said you should do that
Yeah.
cigar.
Yeah. So
I said you should make a Tom's whatever something. Oh my God, I'm excited. That is a great cigar. I want to talk about that cigar actually because so Tom gave so it's been no secret with Tom that I've talked before and certainly years past. I because of my background and getting to play with different tobaccos and having a brand for a while and selling it and everything, I got to play a lot of different tobacco. I could never get my arms around Hunter and tobacco. And I could never, not only could I never blend with it, it just never hit my palate right. And then over the last I want to say 5 or 6 years, Tom would like hand me a cigar and I would smoke it. And I'm like, okay, this is different. And then so last year, and we were at Rocky Mountain, we were
yeah.
at Eric's at Jordan's house, and you gave me a cigar that was in your humidor that wasn't being made. It was a great size. And I'm like, wow, it was really, really good. And I remember thinking the ones you did for Dojo were really good. I remember thinking that was really good. I'm excited. I'm excited. That is a great blend. Wow, outstanding.
Yeah. 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 So I'm excited. finishing up the packaging, and obviously I've had the blend for a couple of years, and so now just getting the packaging done and prepping it for PCA 2026.
So let's talk about, so Asylum turns what, 14 this year?
What
Or
are we? Yeah,
thir-
13. Well, we turned 13 in July, so we'll be 14
Yeah.
in
Okay.
2026. Yeah.
So you marked each anniversary since, I think, what, 2019 with the 7, the 8, the 9.
Yeah.
13 was a Nicaraguan Puro.
Well, this year, for Asylum 13th anniversary, we did something called Time Capsule.
Okay.
So
That's right.
we had kept back a couple of cigars of each. So it's a 13 count box. It has 2 of each year in it, right? So it's got the Asylum 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and only one of the 13s in it. And so, the thought was, okay, that's kind of the end of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the limited series, me and Christian decided to put an end to this year. But what we want people to do is tell us which one they really want, and maybe that becomes a regular line for us in the future.
Okay.
So we'll see. Obviously, they just started shipping and getting into stores this month. So,
Right.
the whole idea is to kind of get the feedback and say which ones work and what are people the Asylum fans excited about, which ones do they want us to make again, and maybe in the future that will become a regular Asylum brand for us.
I like that. I like it. So you always have like edgy names. You have the skulls, you have dark themes, you have Schizo, Straight Jacket, Ogre, and Ogre. Yeah. In my brain, I'm seeing Ogre, Insidious. You've done collabs, Meshuggah, the Oive. So who comes up with these names? I mean, do you ever worry like okay, these are just crazy names? You just come up with the craziest names you can, or?
No, they usually have a meeting behind the brand in a sense, right? So obviously the collabs our good friends at the dojo came up with the Meshuggah and the Oive, but we have the nectophilia, right? Which means, what basically what me and Christian do is we just Google like medical terms for certain things, and nectophilia, not necrophilia, right? But
important distinction.
yeah, exactly. Nectophilia is basically a penchant for the dark. So the reason we named it that is because it's an all Maduro cigar, binder, wrapper, and filler. So it is the Asylum version of an all Maduro cigar, and so nectophilia fit perfectly. Right. And like, obviously this year we had, I know this is going to come back to us in the conversation, but going again to the big rig gauge and the race for the biggest cigar.
Go for it.
So I laugh because after, we did the 990s, and then our good friend Terrence Riley and them over at Organosa did the 10 by 100. And I remember after they did it, I looked at Christian, I said, nobody can have a bigger cigar than Christian. And he's like, I like it. So, we developed the megalophobia, which is a fear of large things. So we made this cigar that's 13 inches by 134 64ths of an inch. And again, limited production, 500 cigars, 250 boxes, but they sold out. Where I'm already making the next 250 boxes. People buy them. I don't know what they do with them. Like I smoked one on Father's Day with Bear Duplessis and Coop. We all did the Bear show, and we spent 6.5 hours smoking the cigar, and I think I got about 10 inches of it finished. But yeah, it's fun. And like I said, so usually when we come up with the names, it's just kind of not random. It's usually, how do we come up with some type of phobia or something, and it's not to make fun of anybody or anything like that, right? It's just
right
to catch the cigar and kind of give the meaning of what the cigar is.
I like that the packaging, because this turf war of who gets to have the biggest cigar, which is all done in fun. On the packaging this year is basically enough is enough. Like, there's just stop. Just be okay having the second biggest ring gauge, because if they do another one, you're like, I'm just telling you right now, if you do another one, I will go bigger. Like, enough is enough. Just stop.
And that's our wonderful joke between me and Terrence Riley, right? Because Terrence is like, Tom, just make something bigger so this could be over, So that's our little homage to Terrence and Arganosa. And, you know, like I joke with Terrence, I said, listen, dude, if you make something bigger, I'm going to deliver something on a pallet to your booth next year. You know what I mean?
Right. Which I haven't, Terrence, I know Terrence, and we talk a lot. I haven't heard anything about another one coming up, but let's go, because you got kind of your back pocket also. You do an April Fool's Day release.
Absolutely.
That the first time people see it, go, oh, that's funny. And I'm like, no, this is a release. And so the Asylum 9 was a 9x90. That was the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Are these meant to be smoked? Are they collectibles? I guess it's what everybody wants to do with them, but
No, they absolutely smoke them, Fred. It is fun. I mean, some people might buy them as novelty, as a gift for a friend, and say, "Oh, look at, I bought you a cigar," and then you hand them this giant cigar, right? But the reality is, there is a consumer for that product, and you know, I love like Rocky Mountain's a great example. You know, every year, I bring 990s, and I have a couple of people that come every year, and I cut and light one for them, and they walk around the show, and then just people see it with it. Where'd you get that thing? Asylum booth. They come over. All right, I'll buy a box. You know, they're 5-count boxes. So, you know, you know, I think, well, this year, unfortunately, the box of the big ring gauge got shipped to the warehouse in Florida, and somehow the rest of the stuff made it to the right place. But I didn't have any of the 90s there this year. But like last year, I think I sold 30 boxes of them. You know what I mean? It was crazy. So, and we have fans that come every year. They love big ring gauge, and we love those guys, man. They, you know, we have a lot of truck drivers and things like that that drive their semi, and they're like, listen, I can cut it. I can smoke it for 3 hours and not have to worry about cutting and lighting. I'm on the road for 10 hours or 8 hours straight. I can smoke one and not have to worry about cut or lighting, and they can just smoke as they go. So we have all different groups that smoke the cigar. You know, it's pretty amazing.
You're one of the most grounded. It's like the everyman cigar maker. Like, you're not the guy that's walking in with an ascot. You're not the guy that, you know, I mean, you know. So one of the cigars you made, which I thought was really cool, was it the Devil's Night?
Yeah,
I think so. So you're a Detroit native. You create Devil's Night to support Detroit firefighters. Tell us about that cigar. I don't want to give anything away, but tell us about that cigar. I thought that was a really cool thing you did.
Yeah, so that was in conjunction with the retailer, Dan Genuine Cigars, who unfortunately the stores don't exist anymore. But you know, that was a project we did with them as a private label, and at the time, Detroit was going through the largest bankruptcy in the U.S. history as a city, and so the firefighters didn't have necessarily essential supplies, bottled water, toilet paper, things like that to have at the firehouses. So, you know, we did this event, and $1 of every cigar went to the firefighters, and the Genuines collected and distributed to the fire departments, the local fire departments in Detroit, and just made sure they had just simple needs that they needed at the firehouses and things like that. So, you know, we did that for a couple of years, and then you know, unfortunately, the business went away for Genuine, and we carried it on for a couple more years with a retailer in Detroit, Ambassador Cigars, and we did it with actually a store in Columbus, Ohio. But so every year we do it for those two. I do a Halloween event at both stores, and you know, our good friend Jeff DeSandre, who was the owner of Ambassador, unfortunately passed away, and the store ended up closing and going out of business after his passing, and so that was kind of the end of the Devil's Night adventure.
Yeah, the slogan was something like "Burn a cigar, not a house," or something like that. I mean, very Detroit, very Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't know what Devil's Night is, it was traditionally growing up in the Detroit area. Everything burned, right? We had an extreme amount of fires that night. Cars were lit on fire, dumpsters were lit on fire. And fortunately enough, with the turnaround in Detroit now, it's called it's more of Angels Night now. So
Right.
and it's always the night before Halloween, and you know, now they have 70,000 people out in the streets making sure the community's not being burned and damaged. And so it switched, and we still have our fires, which I believe they're just a normal amount for every day in Detroit now. But
Yeah, the normal amount of fires.
yeah, whatever that is, I don't know what the number is. But,
Right.
But I think, Detroit's a prideful city, right? And I think a lot of people, as the turnaround has came, are taking pride in the city, and it's great to go. If you haven't been to Detroit, come downtown. The downtown area, there's great restaurants and food culture, and obviously great venues for concerts and sporting events and all that stuff. So the city's made a really big change, and hopefully it continues that direction.
Tom Lazuka, Detroit Tourism Commission. There you go. Now, actually, one more Detroit thing, because I thought this is really cool, and upset that I missed it and didn't end up there. 2014, you guys had an Asylum Cigar Bar at the Detroit Tigers Stadium. Is that right?
It is true, yeah. So we had originally, we did that in 2006 with Camacho. So in 2006, the Tigers, Christian's relative, a gentleman named Alavila, who is the assistant general manager of the Detroit Tigers at the time, contacted Christian and said, "Hey, we got a sponsorship for this cigar bar." And the cigar bar had existed for years, but was never really sponsored. It was done by a local retail shop in Detroit, which doesn't exist anymore either. And so we went in and we took it over, and we had it, I want to say, till about 2010 as Camacho. And then that was obviously after the sale of Davidoff, and we were doing something with the Orange Bowl, and we were setting up lounges, a smoking lounge outside of the Orange Bowl. And I guess some senators, congressmen got wind that we were having tobacco at the Orange Bowl, and they're like, "Oh, that violates the NCAA," even though there's liquor sponsorships everywhere. And
yeah, that's okay.
There's like 3 players on the field that are old enough to drink, but there's liquor sponsors everywhere. So they kind of threw a fit, and so at the time, Davidoff said, "Listen, we're going to get out of this sporting stuff." So they walked away from the cigar bar in Detroit, and I think Lexus took over the sponsorship for a year or two. And then when we started in 2012, they approached us again, and we said, "Okay, let's do it again." So we did it under CLE first, which was funny because CLE are the initials for Cleveland, and they're they're our biggest rival. So we had the Cleveland Cigar Bar. They're like, "Why don't we have a CLE cigar bar in Detroit?" Right? We're like, "Cleveland rocks, motherfuckers." But so we changed it over after 2 years to the Asylum Cigar Bar, and it was a great experience. I mean, the Tigers at the time were. The executive director was a guy named Dwayne McClain, who loves cigars. And every game, two hours before the game, when the cigar bar opened, he was up there. He'd have a cigar before he had to go do his duties. And
that's cool.
Dwayne really supported the cigar bar, and but eventually the Tigers weren't the buyers of the cigars. The concession company that they deal with were, and they weren't taking care of the cigars properly. They were always kind of a struggle to deal with. And I'm like, it's my name on the cigar bar, So if the cigars are dry and not kept right, that affects my brand more than your brand. So so it got in a little fight with Delaware North at the time, and I remember calling Dwayne, and Dwayne's like, "Give me 5 minutes," and it came back, and he's like, "It'll be taken care of," right? Because they had a bunch of old product. And but the simple fact is, they just, for whatever reason, they didn't feel we were important. They paid the bills late, and they did all this stuff. And finally, I just, had to walk away.
We're done. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. The cigar bar, it's gone,
Let me, we got a few more minutes. Let me just get everybody a little bit of insight into Tom Lazuka a little bit. So let's just say, alternate universe, you're not doing cigars. What would you want to do?
I would actually probably be a hunting or fishing guide.
I would have guessed that. That's a big hobby for you.
Yeah. So if I could choose anything, just to, get away from the rat race and the rush, I would go out west and guide for elk and deer and things like that, and fish,
All right. Do you have a hidden talent or hobby that would just surprise everybody? Not hunting, but just something that I can juggle, or something that just nobody would even know.
No, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't juggle. I can't. I'm really not very good comedically like you, Freddie. I Listen. The two best things I'm at right now. I love Call of Duty for some reason. I just absolutely love playing that game. So and it's something I play with my son. He's 23, so we'll play a lot at night and don't get any sleep because, like I said, we'll stay up till 5 in the morning playing this stupid game. But and tequila, man. I enjoy my tequila now. I kind of laid off the booze for a few years, and because of some health issues, diabetes, and my endocrinologist one day, listen, you can still drink, just don't drink sugary shit, And so I'm like,
Right,
all right. He's like, tequila's good, no added sugar additives. So me and my girlfriend Julie like to enjoy a tequila here and there, and but outside of that, yeah, I have no special skill, man. I think, like I said, outside of the cigar world, I couldn't function in corporate America at this point in my life. So
What's like your go-to meal? You're on the road, you're tired, whatever. What's your go-to meal?
For me, it's really just like lately it's salmon and broccoli or chicken and broccoli, trying to be healthy and but like I said, listen, if I'm in Texas, it's barbecue, I'm definitely going to hit Pinkertons or Truth or one of those and, have a little barbecue and, on the road. I love the Texas barbecue is amazing, and Kansas City too. But, normally I try and stick to protein and vegetables when I'm on the road. And, my true love is still pizza, but it spikes my blood sugar too much, so I can't have it too much. But like, I'd eat pizza every day of my life if I could.
Right. Well, I'm leaving for Texas literally tomorrow, and I just go, well, I'm going to gain 5 pounds because it's just, you just can't. Let me see. So what's next? I mean, what's next for you?
Well, I got, well, I'm talking too much, Fred. I got to relight my cigar. And I got 10 lighters here, and I can't find one that has butane in it. Fuck it. No, next is, I finally, I've been on the road like crazy since beginning of July. So, kind of starts to wind down a little bit here. I'm finally home this week, and the next week I'm in the Pittsburgh area doing some events, and then the following week I'm down in Florida doing events at the CI stores in Orlando and Lutz. So I got, or Tampa and Lutz, and so I got that the following week, and then come home for Thanksgiving and hopefully watch my Lions beat the Packers and my and my Wolves.
No,
well, listen, we both laid an egg this week, Fred. I don't know, you guys.
That was bad for both of us.
Yeah,
I think it was worse for us. I think it was worse for us, but yeah.
I'll agree. It was not a great week of football, but we there's always next week, and I think both of us will be fine when it comes to the end of the year. And
I hope so.
Hopefully staying healthy. At the end of the day, you got to have healthy players on the field. And but yeah, so I look forward to, usually every year I go to the Thanksgiving game, and then I go to the Michigan-Ohio State game on that Saturday, and hopefully we can be 5 in a row, even though again it's looking like they're the juggernauts again, but they were last year too. And
yeah, they were. Yeah,
and our lowly Michigan team beat them on their field as a 3-touchdown underdog. So that's why they play the game, right? We don't know. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, and then I finish up with a couple more events in Florida with the smoker friendly people, and that's about it. And then start heading to Honduras and getting everything ready for PCA 2026.
Yeah, that's going to come up fast. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you or where to find you online.
At asylumcigars.com. You can follow me at Lazuka2 on which one is that? Instagram. Yeah, that's what it's called.
There you go. Right? Yeah, one of those.
We have an Asylum Facebook page, CLE Facebook page. So but you can look at our products at CLE.com, asylum.com, Eiroa.com. We're available there. And then obviously we have our Twitters and our Facebooks and all that stuff too, but they're all Asylum. Just look up Asylum, you'll find us.
Yeah, and chances are, wherever you live, Tom's probably coming to your town at some point in the future. So keep an eye out for that. Tom, thank you so much for hanging out, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody telling you a little bit more about the brands. If you haven't tried Asylum, definitely try it. It's not all about ring gauges. We're not discounting that certainly may have been where it started, but there's a lot of great cigars in the lineup. So Tom, thanks again for hanging out. Really appreciate it.
No, I enjoyed it, Fred. Always a pleasure to get a chance to sit down and chat with you, brother.